You know what? I loaded up my phone the other day, and once again, for the millionth time, I got another prompt from one of these tech channels claiming they cracked the code on how you should ditch Sky for Apple TV and apparently save yourself a fortune. Kinda true, except some key information they're giving you, let's just say, are not entirely accurate or are not painting a good enough picture. How do I know that, you ask? Well, let's say I was directly involved with some of these products in question for about 15 years. My name is Arya, this is AZM Lab, and today we're busting this myth, breaking down the real tech details. So, if you're in the UK, you can actually find yourself a better deal. You know what, guys? I totally get it. We all are trying to get around the financial madness that's going on in the world by reassessing our finances, making cuts where we can, and looking at all of our direct debits. In fact, I tell my friends and family, always look at everything these days, your utilities. Be a bit more clever, shall we say, with your money, because there's always better way to do things. And in fact, on this channel, guys, I promote free tools, i.e., for example, replacements for Office, where there are better options available for free with no catches. And on that note, guys, I love the spirit behind these videos of looking at an alternative to Sky through Apple TV and that sort of thing. But before I get to that, guys, putting the technical and some of those elements aside for a moment, giving you a bit of an insider tip. Remember this: if you're looking to negotiate your deal with Sky, let's put it this way. As a customer, you have every right to cancel, and there's nothing stopping anybody else in your house to look for a deal. And there's absolutely nothing wrong in doing that. So always remember that aspect first of all. But kind of coming back to the idea of an Apple TV thing, again, as I mentioned, I love the spirit behind it and how, it's trying to help people in that sense. But the issue is, let me tell you, as somebody that was in that industry, it does not save you money at all. In fact, there's a much cheaper way, which I'm going to go through with you, that's going to help you save money in terms of the packages and deals that you can get. But also, I'm going to bust some myths in terms of some of the technical aspect of it, as this is that channel. They kind of give you a bit of a better understanding of what you could possibly do. At least make a bit more of an informed decision, so you know all the little bits and pieces. Now, to kind of give you a bit of a background and a little bit of a kind of an information of what it is, in case if you don't know, for the people that are on Sky, basically, there are videos suggesting if you go to Apple TV, you can use these third-party softwares, likes of TV Launcher and so on. That is going to give you a TV guide, allow you to watch TV and that sort of thing, which that is true. There is nothing wrong with that. However, in order for you to be able to watch this, watch the Sky TV channels, first of all, you need to use an app, which one of the biggest one is TV Launcher, which first costs money, which is $5.99. So what that means is, this is not an open source software. So again, going to the technical aspect, what open source means is it's truly free. It is something that is contributed by public. There's no catches behind it. There's no businesses or anything like that behind it either. So if you find something like that, yes, always be cautious of how it works, but at the same time, usually with those sort of things, you're not going to find any kind of hidden things. But when something is not open source, like for example this one that charges money, what that means is, guys, with a lot of third-party softwares, how they operate, again, I'm not claiming that this software or any of the ones that are suggested in the videos operate as in this manner. But how they tend to work is, first of all, if they push you towards a website, potentially they could get an affiliation and get some commissions and so on. That's from say Now TV and so on, which I'll cover in a moment. But also on top of it, they capture certain data around you, around what you watch and so on, similar to what you sometimes get prompted on Windows. And that is key, because that information could be sold off depending on the terms and conditions of the third-party software. So first of all, always read that element, because this is very important, because your data these days is gold. So remember that one aspect first. But second of all, as I mentioned, with a lot of these launches, to watch the Sky channels, the suggestion is to use Now TV. Now, where there is a myth around the cost is, let's just look at the entertainment, which gives you about 11 live channels and the box sets. It's normally $9.99, tends to be on offer most of the time, as you can see, on £5 or whatever, which sounds great. But the very important aspect here is it comes in standard definition, or shall we say standard HD. To kind of, again, bust the myth around the whole technology around this, this is not actual HD as such. This is like a 20-year-old technology. And what that means is essentially, if you go from 43, 48 or above TVs, the quality is gonna be awful. And even when some TVs have these technologies inside where they kind of up the resolution and so on, ultimately you're going to get a really poor picture quality. And especially this is going to make a big difference on TV shows like Game of Thrones, for example, on Sky, or movies and sports. So you really don't want that. And I'm not saying that you need 4K, but you need at least 1080p. And don't get me wrong, the whole argument, why we pay money for full HD in 2025, I am with you on that. It is stupid. That is also like 20-year-old technology, and it shouldn't be like that, but hey ho. And here's the key thing, guys. When you get, it says first month is free trial, then it's £6 a month. And this is very important, because if you add the £6 on top of the £4.99, well, that is £11. Now, this is important in an essence, because then you got to remember, you have to then buy an Apple TV box, and that is $149. Apple doesn't do sales that often, maybe like 10% and so on, but let's just go by a normal figure. And I've already done a calculation. If you divide that by 24, which is a length of the contract, that's £6.20. Let's round it up to £6. So we're already talking about £17 already, just to watch basic services and so on, aside from that minor cost for the app and so on. So this is not something that you're already kind of getting a huge deal on. This is very important in a sense that a lot of these videos, what they use as a comparison is just TV only price. But with this Apple TV, guys, and with that one, you need internet for it to work. So that whole comparison of a TV only is just null and void, because, well, you need internet. So regardless, you're going to be paying for the internet. And this is very important, because if you look at the internet costs by themselves, and let me tell you again, as a busting a myth and giving you information, I would highly recommend in 2025 for an average household with, at least 1 or 2 kids with a lot of kind of streaming and so on, to be aiming for 150 to 300 meg internet. That should be your average, that what you're looking at, because 75, frankly, although in terms of numbers can kind of do the job, still it is not going to be optimal, especially as more and more things are added with the smart homes and so on. So you're really kind of looking at kind of like, I would say 150 to 300 minimum. 300 will be a kind of the sweet spot. Anything above that, I think it will be too much, frankly. And if you're looking at sort of like the 300 meg, guys, we are talking about a general fees of between 28 to 31 or even more. Let's make it even lower, 27, which I can't see anything at that price, but let's assume that is the case. Now, if you put the cost of Apple TV aside for a moment and just add that pure £11 on top, you're already talking about 38. Now, this is very important, because if you look at Sky, again, going to the conversation. Now, what they do offer, guys, is a box also that is same as Apple TV, which is this one that I borrowed, which is called the Sky Stream. Now, this is very important because this is also a smart box, and the menu in it is pretty much the same as Sky Q. But in terms of the elements, what's important is a couple of things. First of all, with Apple TV, you purchase the device. Now, if it breaks, you get usually 1-year warranty, but after that, you have to purchase another one. Whereas with these, they are loaned to you, including a remote. So what that means is if it breaks, they'll send you a replacement. So long-term saving there. But also additionally, it means the menus and everything is much more simpler, they're more up-to-date, they're more tailored. But all the apps that you also get with Apple TV in terms of watching TV, they're available on SkyStream as well. So in terms of usability point of view, there is not much benefit. But if you're looking at the cost point of view as well, when you're looking at this, as I've got it on the screen, guys, SkyStream and Ultimate TV. And Ultimate TV is basically same as that Now TV, except it offers a lot more channel. And to kind of give you a bit of a breakdown, it gives you all the Freeview channels that you get with an even a cheaper option, which is Essential TV, which is Freeview and that sort of thing. But also on top, it gives you a lot more in terms of, for example, Comedy Central, a lot more Sky channels, MTV, and so on. So you're talking about nearly 100 channels more. So quite a significant amount compared to that. But also additionally, it includes HDR standard, so you don't need to pay any add-on, which makes it so much better. So you already are talking about 39. So they're pretty much on par without considering the cost of the box. But once you add the cost of the box, it's already more expensive if you look at the Apple TV route than this option. But now, another key aspect, as I've highlighted here, comes into effect, which is Netflix. Now, you do get Netflix Basic with this one, which is $5.99. And that's important because that's another £6 on top. Now, if you're already paying for Netflix as well, guys, again, as I worked in that business, you can actually link your Netflix account to your Sky account and it automatically stops your payment to Netflix, but your login details would remain the same. And you can also upgrade to the higher banding of Netflix, which is the standard and premium, and especially with premium, it definitely works out cheaper. So ultimately, by the time you add these costs, if you do it separate with the cost of the Apple TV and so on down the Apple TV route, you're in mid-50s. Whereas this is already 39, which is much better. Again, depending on the version Netflix, it gets better. But also on top, you also do get Discovery Plus Entertainment, which gives you Discovery Plus Originals and some of the channels and that sort of things. And that's £4. So again, that's another saving that you're making. So it makes it even better from that point of view. So that whole argument that you're financially benefiting from going that route, definitely for quite some time, I can tell you, this is not a case right now, but for quite some time, it's been null and void. It's not something that applies. Now, some people will be making an argument, well, I've got an option for movies and so on. Well, first of all, with SkyStream, I can tell you, they do offer 30 days, but also, again, giving you a bit of an insider scoop, guys. If you do negotiate and be a bit more savvy with it while you're having a conversation on the phone, trust me, if you buy more, ultimately the deal that you will get will be significantly better than what you do get with Now, and you could potentially even negotiate, usually because the movies and sports come with deals in terms of 4K and so on, again for the past 2 years anyways. So you are going to be so much better off from that point of view. And also in terms of the conversation, when it comes down to the element where people say, oh, you can use the Now TV separate, Sky offers that through an app called Sky Go. So you have that, and Sky Go is available on Apple TV, ironically, but also mobile phones, tablets, game consoles. So you're not, again, limited in that sense point of view. It's a knowledge that people don't have. And also, again, if you are savvy enough, guys, and look around, there are some cashback deals that you can potentially get from the likes of Top Cashback in UK that would actually give you some money back from that point of view and still gets you the same deal to save you even more money, where you don't really get that from Apple TV elements. Now, again, if you're not generally looking at Sky channels and you want something that just gives you Freeview and you don't want to fork out and maybe are looking at buying a TV, what I would recommend is to actually look at TVs that have got facilities that give you that. And if you want simplicity, you actually don't need to buy Fire Stick or anything like that, because TVs like Panasonic or TCL, they have actually Fire TV, which is the operating system that's basically on the Fire Stick built into the telly. And stuff like Sony, as I've had before, have Google TV, which is Android TV built in them. And a lot of likes of Samsung and so on, they have their facilities. It's a little bit more restricted, but they will give you that element in case if you don't want Sky channels and you're possibly looking at buying a TV. So there are a lot of great options that I would say far outweigh this some of the suggestions with regards to the elements of kind of, how shall I put it, these Apple TV and that sort of thing. Now, just putting a little bit of a caveat on it, guys, things change all the time. And ultimately, what would be my recommendation to you is always make sure that you kind of do your own research. You look around the deals that are available at the time and do the maths, and kind of break down in terms of each individual item and what is ultimately is I'm going to include, because that will give you the best picture. What I'm proposing right now, guys, is been like this for quite some time. I can tell you for sure because I was working there and it's not really changed. Maybe it will change in future, but for now, I think this is what you need to bear in mind. What I'm also going to do, guys, is in just after this now, I'm going to give you quick demonstrations on my capture of using SkyStream so you kind of get a general idea of how it works as well. Now, as you can see with SkyStream, the menus are much more visualized, so for somebody that's elderly or maybe familiar with old Sky services, they will feel right at home in that sense. So it's much easier to navigate compared to any other smart service. Again, you'll find direct topics like TV shows, movies, sports, and that sort of thing that you can kind of navigate and go through, which is great in terms of finding the content that you like, depending on subscription that you have. But also additionally, when you go to the playlist section, that is essentially your recording menu. And how it works with SkyStream compared to SkyQ and previously is basically on your remote, you have a button that looks like a plus sign, you press it, it creates what's called a playlist, which is essentially a bookmark, like as if you put in a tab in your book. And when you go and play a program, it pulls it from services like BBC iPlayer or Sky On Demand and plays it. Now, you also, again, you have a TV guide, which is much better than services that are mentioned because they're in a traditional Sky sense with numbers and so on, so you can navigate with numbers as well easier. But also you can press left and find direct topics where it takes you in terms of like say music or movies and so on. But also you have access to stuff like Sky Store and so on where you can buy movies cheaper. But also, again, this is the key element that I mentioned, it is a fully smart box, so all the apps, YouTube, Crunchyroll, HeyYou, everything is all available there. So opposite to what a lot of people say, it is not a limited service. Again, much easier to use, to be honest with you, compared to a lot of those smart services that you would come across. I hope this video has helped you, and if it has, don't forget to smash that like button and do drop your comments down below. Love to hear your feedback, love to share some ideas about how we can save some money even better than this. Drop them down below, it would be amazing. Also stuff that you want me to cover and that sort of thing, we'll try maybe next video. And maybe if you have a question around some of these businesses and so on, where I'm allowed and where I can, I'll try to answer them away. But in the meantime, guys, don't forget to hit that sub, ding that notification, because there's going to be more videos on free tools, how to fix things, and streaming, guys, coming soon as well. But until next time, guys, take care and peace.